wanted to share that recipients will continue to receive an error preventing submission of any RPPR if there are studies involving clinical trials where registration is due and no national clinical trial number has been entered into the human subjects and clinical trials information form, or results are due and have not been submitted. To address the delinquent registration error, recipients will be required to provide the NCT number or provide the clinicaltrials.gov registration receipt. For any results reporting error, the recipient will need to submit the trial results information to clinicaltrials.gov or provide the submission receipt for either a good cause extension request or certification of a delayed submission of results information. And that's it for the clinical trials update. But before we move on to system process updates, Adam, can you tell us about the new data management and sharing policy and when this policy goes into effect?
I'd like not to, but since the slides are here, I guess I'll go ahead and talk about it. Effective next year, so January 25th, 2023. And as you can see on the following bullets, this is effective for grants, contracts, intramural research projects, and other transactions. So for all the different categories of funding mechanisms, we will be requiring a new data management and sharing policy for applications submitted after that date. And the policy requires the submission of a data management and sharing plan that outlines scientific data and any accompanying metadata be managed and shared and take into account any potential restrictions or limitations. And this plan will have to be approved by the IC awarding your application. Okay, so just to clarify, this applies to all research funded or conducted in whole or in part by NIH that results in the generation of scientific data. How do we define scientific data? The recorded factual material commonly accepted in the scientific community as of sufficient quality to validate and replicate research findings, regardless of whether the data are used to support scholarly publications. And of important note, you can see the last bullet on here. We recently issued a guide notice that discusses our implementation details for this policy. Obviously, it is not going into effect until January of next year, but this is laying out how we're going to implement.
And before we get to the question, I also just want to add for everybody, we are engaging in multiple external outreach efforts and trainings and webinars related to this topic.
So current guidance is showing that this is going to be for new applications after due after January 25th, 2023. Does NIH anticipate that they at any point are going to be adding this requirement to existing awards during the RPPR after that date?
There's no plan for that currently. That is not to say that it could not be implemented that way. But currently it is just for new applications.
Okay, a follow-up to that then being for those of us in coming up to the October cycle, we are instructed that we are not to be adding any costs for this new policies. And if it's unknown whether this is going to be needed, I guess we'll just have to deal with it if it comes up. I mean, because if we were submitting now in the October cycle, these are going to now start well after this policy starts, and we could have 5 or 6 years of budget issues if this gets implemented for current awards later.
Yeah, I imagine there would be some consideration for administrative supplements for awards if we were to implement the requirement and there was a need for additional funding.
Yeah, and I also just want to remind folks that, of course, the data share, the existing data sharing policy has always encouraged, the sharing of scientific data, and also some funding opportunity announcements have currently required that. So please also make sure if you are applying to due dates on or before January 24th, 2023, that you're also referring to the funding opportunity in case there are requirements for data sharing, as well as related data sharing costs currently on those FOAs.
Yeah, excellent point, Kasima. A lot of institutions have taken the initiative to kind of get ahead of this policy and start implementing it on their own for their specific FOAs. So as Kasima said, that is a really important that you verify the data sharing requirements for the FOA you're applying to, because in some cases they, as an institution, are essentially implementing these requirements for their FOA ahead of time.